Alright, so we had to pause, so I'm coming back, like I said, with the CYMA. That explains why it's loose. Poopy two-piece barrel. Alright, so this whole thing's coming apart. But whatever, it is what it is. We'll get it figured out, sorted out as always. So that's why it says lock barrel. Alright, so we got the gearbox here. Ambi Selector feels pretty good. It is radiused. Doesn't seem to be anything spectacular, so let's get this guy out. Yeah, so let's just do that. Let's get this guy apart and out. So we can start checking some more of this gun out. That's always nice that the connectors are nice and tight. They got long wires, but they ran the wire up through the front. Motor, whatever, you know, look, wee, CYMA motor. Kind of poop. Whatever. It's a CYMA motor. I will say they do switch wires from here to here with the Tamiya connector. They're going from this to this. I don't know why. Well, it's more flexible, so I do prefer the silicone wire back towards the batteries when you're trying to fit stuff in, because it's flexible, and when you bend it, it doesn't get stuck in that shape, which is kind of nice, which also means it's going to have lots of strands. That also, so lots of strands means less resistance. Into reversal latch propped pretty easy. Nothing fancy here. I will say the button for the mag release looks to be a little longer than average, which is a good thing in my opinion. Then again, it's my opinion. Alright, next, the Ambi Selector. Alright, well, I will say this, I like that. They actually have a ball and spring on this Ambi Selector, where most of them don't have anything on that side. Alright, next. Looks like somebody took this apart. There's a, or maybe not, I don't know, that's a pinhole. Looks like a pinhole. Nope, didn't come out on that side. So maybe CYMA marks it. Let's see. Okay, so I'll have to look at another one, but apparently that pinhole means that's the knurled end of your pin. Okay, we got this guy here. What do we got going? Do we have to take the other selector? Oh, I guess we will have to take this selector off. Well, that's annoying, having to take off both selectors. I'm not gonna lie. Let's try not to lose the parts. Alright. Take that off. Yeah, that clip seems okay. It's not really caught, but let's just get this out of the way for right now. Set the semi, let's go. Oh. Alright, so we got that pin. I should have seen that. Obviously, I'm tired. I am, I guess, a lot more tired than I anticipated this morning. So that would be why I can't get that out, because I, like an idiot, didn't see that. More coffee. Alright, cool. That seems quite annoying. Is that grabbing? Nope. Okay, good. So now we should just... Yeah, okay, so that was my bad. My bad. Alright. I don't know if I'm a fan of these tiny little gears. Honestly, I will tell you right now, don't know if I'm going to be a fan of that. Yeah, I don't know if I like the fact that I have to take both off too for that, but whatever. But this is fine. This can reset back here. Line those up, set it in, put some grease, that'll keep it in place. We'll take the gear off on this side. The reason why I'm not taking the gear off on the other side is because it is underneath this, so I would have to remove everything because there's a lip here and a lip here. So there you have it. And I would really just like to get all that out, so let's see what we can do here. Alright, that takes care of that. That can come out. We do have a groove in here, so that's kind of nice. The grooves help. I definitely will be greasing those grooves for sure. Alright. And as always, this screw here. Metal bushings, looks like steel bushings. Looks like they're taking a play out of the KWA book and using a spring guide very similar to a version 3 spring guide in the version 2 box. Every part so far, some of the main parts, it does look like they have parts numbers, which is nice. Back here. There's no accent today because I am tired. I am quite tired today. Alright. So, next. Ah! Phillips. They did add an extra screw to this, which is going to annoy me. I'm not a big fan when they put the safety screw on the outside of the gearbox. Should just leave it inside the gearbox like everybody else. Just leave it in there. Don't make it be on the outside of the gearbox. It's one more screw that I got to deal with. I don't want to deal with any more freaking screws. It's not on my list of things I want to do. Like I said, we look like we're painted here. They like just kind of painted the gearbox. Nothing fancy. This ain't no fancy coating. I do like this right here, this extra metal, and I do like the radiusing. Never a fan of the CYMA air nozzle. Ugh, they're just horrible. But I'm pretty sure looking at it, this gun is chronoing over 400 because of the 601 and the non-vented cylinder. So we'll be dropping in another, we're going to leave that because that's a 509 barrel. So at least that's what it says on it. Maybe it's a 509 that got cut. I'm not sure, but either way, we're going to leave it, and then I'm going to be putting in a 115 spring, and that'll be that. Alright, so now let's see what happens when we go to pull this guy apart. Here, come on. This guy open. That spring doesn't feel like it should be producing that much FPS, but it is. Alright, so looking inside of this thing here, we got their typical CYMA green grease. It's just nasty. It's, I don't have to worry about putting magnets down because I'm taking these contacts out. I take this guy apart here. Tappet plate is what it is. It's a tappet. Nothing fancy. They have some grease on it, but I think that grease is just from the gearbox. Spring is good. Very stiff spring, so the return will be nice. Piston. Well, you know, it's nothing fancy. It's a CYMA piston. There's definitely, it's got oil instead of grease on the piston, which is nice. Okay, that compression is poop. So he says compression, so I think we're going to be changing that out for sure. I think we'll keep this with the 115 spring, and I'll change that O-ring out. See how that goes. And definitely going to caliper this guy and change this guy out, because this is just poop. So the parts we're changing, I'm going to put right over there. That's what we're changing over there. That, and that. Those right there for compression. We're going to leave the gears. Take this trigger out. Trigger, nothing fancy, just a trigger. That's going to stay. Let's remove the bevel gear. It's only got 4 stops. I prefer 5 or 6 stops on the bevel gear personally. Shim wise, you know, they greased this part, which is good. They didn't really, yeah, they put some grease on the gears too, which is nice. But the bushings are what they are. They feel good. They have pockets in here. These little pockets are actually, I don't know what they're for. For me, I think they're for grease, to hold the grease in. So I'm kind of a fan of those. Alright. No delayer on the sector gear. Nothing fancy about the sector gear. We've got some rub here and here. This part here seems to be either indented or raised. It looks like it's rubbing on the, right here, it's rubbing on the spur gear. They did put some decent, they did put a big shim on there. Well, not big actually. I guess I would have put a little heavier shim on there because you can see those move, that groove right there, so it's definitely rubbing on that. Didn't seem to be rubbing on the cutoff lever. Not a fan of grease on the cutoff lever, but whatever. Did we have a shim on the top? Alright, so we did have a shim on the top. It's not the best shim, but it's a shim. It's an attempt. So I would probably add another shim to the bottom of this to raise this up, just because we have that rubbing there. Alright, pretty, you know, it's your standard anti-reversal latch. The spring, pretty weak as springs go. And then the spur gear, got one on the bottom, but obviously it's not really rubbing on the bottom because the grease is still there. And the grease really isn't doing much. This is more like snot, but like I said, everything in this is an attempt. I would probably add one more shim there if I could, or maybe remove it if I can, because this is raised off the gearbox. So we'll have to see. I'm going to look at reshimming this because some of this is just poopy. Alright, these wires are coming out because we're putting in the MOSFET. And we have a random shim, so it looks like I am going to be shimming something. I don't know, I don't want to assume. but it could be, don't know. That's really weird. Shim in here on the side of the gearbox has no grease coming off of it. Doesn't have very much grease on it. It looks like it's been bent. Yeah, so that shim's been bent. If you guys can see that. Okay. Yeah, so this shim was bent in here, so I'm assuming they wanted it on the bevel and it never stayed. So there you go. I'm not going to fault CYMA for that, because my opinion is it's a CYMA. You buy a CYMA to upgrade it. You don't buy a CYMA because you think the thing's going to last forever and it's the most amazingly built airsoft gun in the entire airsoft universe, right? It's not an Evo, it's not a Sistema, it's not VFC, it's not an Avalon, it's not GMP. Yeah, so there you go. So that's that. So this guy's out. I'm probably going to scrape the crap out of this whole gearbox. And, yeah, clean all that up. But so far, you know, it's a CYMA. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. You know, shooting hot, even with a horrible air nozzle, which makes no sense, other than the fact that it's a CYMA. So there you go. It could be the fact that the customer put in a 601, and I don't know if you changed the bucking, so who knows what's going on. I'll have to look at all that when I do the flat hot. But so far, looks like everything can go in here. Nothing's a cut above the ordinary. Everything is meh. It's mediocre. The gearbox in the back is beefy. I will say this: don't try to drop in a Wolverine, not the Wolverine system, a Wolverine Quake system, because you need all this room in here. Once you mill all this stuff out here, you need this room that's in here for your T-connector for the Quake. So if you're going to buy a CYMA and you want to put in a Quake, I wouldn't recommend it. Get something else, or find a boneyard gearbox, like an older GMP or even a Crytek, because a Crytek is missing all this area here, and some of this here for the their MOSFET, where they put in their MOSFET. Alright guys, so there you go. This guy's going to get cleaned, and it's basically going to get a MOSFET today. I'm going to be reshimming it, cleaning it all up, and swapping out some compression parts and lowering the spring. Later. Hope this helped out. Peace.